Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success. This is episode 20. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Bill Watkins and Robert Mallon. Bill was a West Point graduate, Army officer, a world-class athletic, corporate executive, and entrepreneur. Robert is a national recognized speaker, business coach, mentor, and a meeting facilitator. Robert has 35 years experience as a leader and a manager in major national known corporations. Bill and Robert are co-founders of Rust Lion Academy. Their students call both of them an extraordinary life guides. Wow. Hello, Bill and Robert.
Hello,
Hey,
Patience.
Glad to be on, Patience.
Okay, that's really the background. So, apart from your professions or your experiences, we are very anxious to hear what is your story. So let's get started with the basic one. Can you tell my clan how you were living your success online before you opened your learning program?
So what we were doing before we started Rusty Lion Academy?
Yes, please.
Got it. Well, Bill, is it okay if I start?
Absolutely.
Okay. We actually, my background, Patience, I worked, I was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, and went to a place called Western Carolina University. And when I got out, I had worked in restaurants for a little bit while I was in school, and then got into the restaurant business and worked for a couple of really large restaurant companies all over the southeast part of the United States, and worked my way up, kind of got better and better, and found that was just a really good type of business for me to be in. So I worked totally in restaurants for about 20 some odd years in different types of leadership positions. And then at that point, 20 years later, I was married and I had 3 sons. My oldest son, I believe at this point, was about 16. My youngest son was about 9 years old or so. And I made a decision one day that I needed to stop working in restaurants because I was missing so much of their lives, and went into software. Actually started working with a very, very good friend of mine that owned a real large software company in Atlanta, Georgia. And that transition went very well also, but it was kind of neat. For the first year, I felt like I was on vacation after working in restaurants for so long. So, working 8:30 to 5 o'clock every day for me was just like a break time almost. But did that for about 8 years. And then back in 2002, Patience, I decided I wasn't being fulfilled. I knew what I was doing I was doing good work, but I wasn't enjoying it like I used to. And so I hired a coach, and what I wanted to accomplish with the coach was, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And so one of the questions he asked me was, if you could be anything in the world, what would you be? And I thought about it and I said, I'd be some sort of a motivational speaker and I would help people improve their lives. And that answer opened the door to now about a, good grief, 13, 14-year career as a professional speaker and a business coach. And so that's what I did. And all of that, the last 14 years ago, we can talk about, a little bit, but that to me is the most fulfilling thing in the world. So it's kind of an intersection of what my greatest talents are and where my biggest passion is. So I get to do that like every single day. And now I get to do it with my partner as of the last couple of years, Bill Watkins. So Bill, what were you doing?
Well, Patience, in 1990, oh gosh, when was it? I was in corporate America. I was in the U.S. Army, graduated from West Point, and then I was in corporate America for a number of years. Oh gosh, at least more than a decade. And my attitude or my inner working started to move me towards perhaps becoming an entrepreneur, which had never entered my mind. But in 1994, I launched my first company called the Morena Group, and sold that and worked in that business until selling it in 2012. And then, Robert and I had been friends for, a couple decades, and we were brainstorming together perhaps what my next company would look like, or what my next job would be, what I would do next. And slowly we began to laser beam in on working together and not necessarily doing our own, in other words, building another company and selling it, but helping other people do that. And so in 2013, we shook hands on that. In 2014, we started building Rusty Lion Academy, which is the kind of the, what would you call it, Robert? The amalgamation, I don't even know what that word means, but it's kind of putting
collective. Collective.
Yeah, it's kind of collecting 80 years of professional experience in building businesses and building leaders and in building extraordinary lives of our own and of those of our employees and of other people that we've coached. So we've put all that together in 2014, and we officially opened the doors in January of 2015. So patients, we're almost 1 year into this next adventure. We're both 60 years old, and this is probably the most exciting time in our lives. So we're thrilled that we get to tell our story to your clan.
Wow, that's a background. Really cool. Bill and Robert. So help us connect with you. Tell us one thing, either business or a person that we want to know about you. Even if we have been following you for a while, we had all these inspiration stories. What would be one question we want to know about each of you?
Good question, Patience.
What's the question again? Say it one more time, Bill. What was it?
I think it's the one thing that we would want people to know about us that wouldn't be, correct me if I'm wrong, that people wouldn't normally know. Is that right, Patience?
Yes, that's right. Bill.
Yeah?
Yes.
I'll go first.
Well, I know, Robert, you have so many things, though. You got to pick one.
Well, I'll pick one in Patience. I married my third grade sweetheart.
Wow.
Yeah, we fell in love when we were 8 years old, and it was in Mrs. Leopold's class. That's probably this. I don't know if your listeners really want to hear about this, but nobody knows about this. And I thought she was the most beautiful little girl in the world. And she moved away. She and her family moved away when we were in sixth grade, and I didn't see her again until I was 22 years old. But she had a twin sister. And I went and saw them at Christmas one year, and they were both there. And I asked them both, I said, would one of you like to go out with me tonight? And my sister-in-law already had a date and my wife didn't. So we went out that night and fell in love. So that's one crazy thing about me. Yeah. Okay. Top that one, Bill. Top that one, Bill.
I always try and top you, Robert, but I rarely am able to. You normally are winning. Well, another thing that you don't know about Robert Patience is that he is a guy that always steps out and tries something new. So a few years ago, I sat in the front row of a theater to watch Robert in a musical. And then, he was actually dancing and singing his way to fame. And then he got bored with that, and then he decided he was going to become a guitar player, which he did become. And so he's always leading the way into new things, and I'm stuck back here doing the old things. What would somebody not know about me just by thinking that?
Hey, Bill, I got a great idea. Because on Patience, on this podcast, Patience likes to hear real stories of people that encounter speed bumps Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then keep going on. Tell her about the Olympics. No, he was an Olympic athlete, and this is a great story. The one where, you know what I'm talking about, Bill.
You mean on the finish line?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, patience in I began competitive cycling when I was at West Point, and I was nominated to several Olympic development teams. In 1984, I was at the Olympic trials, and I was competing for one of four slots to go to the Los Angeles Olympics. And what people don't know is this secret story. A few people know, but nobody would remember except for me. Is that in the final race of this qualification series, I was close to having enough points to be selected. I wasn't a shoe-in. I wasn't the best, but I was close enough. And the gun went off for this mass start race. It's like a running race, and the cyclists all ride off. And I pushed my pedal to start my bike, and I went nowhere. What had happened was the chain on my bike had broken, and that was the end of my race. And I was named to the Olympic development the Olympic long team. I did not ride in Los Angeles, but at that moment I didn't know that was going to happen, and so all that training flashed through my mind in milliseconds, that it all went down the drain because of a broken chain. And,
how did you feel from that? Did you ever compete again? Because also I used to be an athlete, so I can actually share my story about being an athlete. How did you feel? How did you feel about that?
Well, Patience, I'm embarrassed to say I have competed since then. I did retire after the '84 Olympics and did other things. I did come back in much later in life, and compete at
Okay, so Bill, don't gloss over that story. That's
I'll tell it in a second. I want to tell Patience.
Please.
I want her clan to hear just how I felt in those milliseconds.
Yeah.
And how I responded, because it wasn't pretty, and I'm embarrassed. I handled it poorly, Patience. Instead of kind of letting life happen, at that time in my life, I was a guy who tried to make life be the way I wanted it. In that case, something freak happened, and the chain broke. Sometimes people get illnesses, sometimes they lose jobs. I mean, all sorts of bad things happen to people. And we actually coach a lot of our clients through those events in their life. And I do so much more maturely. But back then, I didn't. And so here I am. I'm amongst, 2,000 or 3,000 spectators that came to watch this cycling event. I'm now the only guy on the start line because everybody, of course, rode off and I was stuck there. Everybody's looking at me, staring. They realize what's happened, and everybody's sad for me. But I throw a temper tantrum. I handle it very immaturely. I scream and yell and pout and whine. And basically, it took me 20 years to process those sort of events much more productively. So, Patience, I don't encourage your clan to handle their setbacks the way that I did at that time.
How old were you? Sorry, because I'm going to share my story. How old were you when you handled that tantrum?
Well, it was 1984, so I was exactly 30 years old.
Oh,
well. And I was the Superman who couldn't understand why he couldn't make life be the way that it was. But you have a story to tell us.
Wow. I'm not going to sympathize with you because I was 13 when I was literally to be picked. I was running a country across, and then I became number 5, and it was only number 4. They can pick from 1 to 4, and I was like, oh, I just missed it just by this minute. That's close. But
yes,
I just that's okay.
Yes. I didn't. Oh, you said that's okay?
Yes, I did. I said that's okay. I'm going to see in the exams because like the next month was just exams for the international examination board. I'm from Uganda, and I was going to the secondary, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to focus on. Just big on the exams, and that's it. Athletic is finished.
Well, you handled it way better than I did, Patience, and so kudos to you, and that's probably one of the reasons why your clan listens to you. It's because you have some wise maturity.
I tried. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you come up with Rastella and Academy Coaching program?
You mean the name?
Yes.
Well, the name comes from my second attempt at not my attempt, but my second foray into world-class cycling in 2009. I decided to make a comeback at the elite level of cycling, and so I set a goal of either winning the 2011 national championships or the 2011 world championships, and I began getting fit again. I hadn't been on a bike for 30 years practically. And so Robert was part of that journey, and I was brainstorming with him whether it was a good idea or not. Anyway, it kind of surfaced because I was going to write a blog about this adventure, about a 55-year-old guy who wanted to compete with the professional cyclist who wanted to win a national championship in only a few years of training. So here is how the two words go together, Patience. Every man wants to be a lion. He wants to be noble and strong. He wants to be a leader. And so, but every man, and I just told you one of my failure stories back on the Olympic start line in 1984, every man fails. And lions fail too, and that's the scars that they have. If you get up close to a lion, which we don't recommend, we will see scars. And those scars are when the lion perhaps made a mistake, but because the lion is still the leader of the pride, that lion learned something and he became wiser. And so our scars lead to usually our greatest successes. And so we put Rusty Lion together because our coaching business is focused 100% on 30 to 49-year-old men who are business leaders and business owners. And we want them to utilize our coaching to shortcut their way to success and to minimize, not eliminate, but to minimize the number of failures and the impact of those failures on their life. We want them to turn those failures into success.
Wow. Okay. People tend to think the sun is always shining because you are now successful. Did you have any setbacks or failures while setting up your online business? What were those super? Oh, you just went through to the top.
So what were some of the failures that we had?
Did you have any? Did you have any? Or you're Superman?
Oh.
You just went all the way on top.
No.
No.
Robert, how about, I mean, we've had many, but how about, why don't we start with our commitment to do our own podcast?
Oh yeah. Well, we have our own podcast, Patience. This is a good story of failure, but do you know, Patience, who John Lee Dumas is?
Yes, I'm.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah. Okay. We got a little bit of coaching from him, and we decided we were going to do a podcast. And I believe this was probably around summertime or early summer of 2014. And so we ordered all the, things, the microphones and the mixers and just everything that you needed to have. So that went pretty well. Patience, I'm a guy that has a little bit of ADD, so that type stuff, like technical stuff, just does not work very well for me. So I put everything together and hooked it into my MacBook Pro and tried to figure out how to make Adobe Audition work and all the things that you have to do. And I just flat could not get it to work. And so I got frustrated, number one, and I just kept trying different things. But over the course of probably 3 or 4 months, I contacted several audio, what would they be, Bill? Audio engineers, but people that do this type thing professionally. And they would get on the computer with me, and I would even let them take over the computer, remotely to where they could see what was going on and everything. And nobody could figure it out. We just could not figure out why this thing did not work because it was all set up correctly. Well, we finally got in touch with a guy named Jeff Brown who coached us in how to do podcasts. But I explained within the first 2 minutes the problems I was having with it. And he said, well, how old is your MacBook Pro? And the MacBook Pro was pretty new. And he says, well, that mixer will not work with a new MacBook Pro as of such and such a day in 2014 or month. The new ones would not work with that. So he said, the only problem you have is you've just got too new of a computer. So that mixer and that stuff will never work with that. So why don't you just do this? And he gave me, like in 30 seconds, he told me exactly what to do, and I did it, and it worked. And after 3 or 4 months of just total frustration, thinking, okay, I'm an idiot, and spending all this money with audio engineers who were, also feeling like they were idiots, this guy just fixed it like that. And I think patients, the moral of the story is, you got to get the right person, you got to get the right coach. Because the right coach can just unlock it for you real quickly and shortcut, like Bill was talking about earlier, shortcut your time and your frustration and everything else. So that was a huge failure that I had because I just couldn't figure it out, but it was a very, very easy fix when I finally got to the right person.
That's good. What about you, Bill? Did you not have any failure?
Oh, we've had I don't know about any failure. I would say it's just hard to pick one to talk about. We've had so many. Anytime patients. I remember back when I was launching my company out of my house, out of my garage. There is absolutely no way to do anything new, anything hard without failure. If any of your audience and the clan think that they're going to launch an online business and they're not going to fail, they just definitely don't need to do it because they're being completely unrealistic. It's not if you're going to fail, it's just what, when, how, and how you'll react after you do. So I would say, Robert, one of my biggest, I would say, emotional setbacks, patients, was when we had a prospect on the phone.
Yeah.
And this was what we believed a perfect prospect. This was exactly the kind of man, business leader, business owner that we are so energized in coaching and so effective with. And when we made our offer, he said he had to think about it and talk to his wife. And the next day when we talked, he said, you know what? I'm not feeling you guys. I'm not going to sign up. And that really set me back, patients. And Robert knows it, I really had to process that because I felt responsible for not communicating clearly to this prospect about what we do and how he would benefit. And we learned from that. As a matter of fact, he is going to become a client in 2016. We didn't give up. And when we went back and we clarified things and got the marbles out of our mouth and were much more crisp and concise and clear about our offering and what we do and all that, he said, count me in, I'm in. But at the moment that happened, to me, it felt like a huge failure. Patients, when we go to sleep at night, if we have a smile on our face, it's because we got to help people during the day. And when we're not helping people, we're not happy. And so that made me feel like I had really let somebody down. I'd let Robert down. I'd let myself down. But particularly, I felt like I had let this prospect down because I knew that we could help them. I knew we were the right guys, and I knew that we had just not done a good job in promoting and marketing ourselves, so that he just didn't feel it. For me, that was a big setback. We've recovered from it, as we always do. I mean, it's not the question, are you going to fail, patients? It's how are you going to recover and how are you going to learn? And that's why, scars, failures are always the doors to our greatest successes if we utilize them well.
Wow. I know Declan is anxious to hear about how you got through this in part 2, but for now, tell us, what do you think is your reason for your online success journey?
Robert, I'm going to go with, I think we have dialed in so tightly into what we are passionate about and what we are really, really good at. And I think when you put those two things together, and Robert's actually more of an expert on this even than I am, when you put passion, what energizes you as a human being, together with what you're really uniquely gifted, talented, and good at, I think success comes from that formula. Of course, if you're building a business, you have to find the intersection of those with something that people will pay you for, if you're doing a for-profit business. But I think when you put those two or three things together, we did. And I mean, is there something other than that, Robert, that we?
I actually, three thoughts came to mind, patients, when you asked that. Number one, Bill and I both share a value that we call continuous improvement. And I can't tell you whether, I don't even think we try for it. I think it's something that's inside of us, and I don't know how to tell somebody to put that inside of them, but we're always looking at something, and we're always, I guess you could say, Bill, tinkering, trying to make something better. Whatever the thing is that we're working on, we just continuously over and over and over again try to make it better so our processes get better. The second thing would be, I think, a major reason for our success is both of us have a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. So you probably have heard that term before, but Carol Dweck talks about this. People with a fixed mindset, they just kind of feel like they're there, and they don't try to improve and grow. Whereas a person with a growth mindset, they're always reading and learning new things and trying to take in more information. So I think that growth mindset definitely helps any entrepreneur. And then lastly, and Bill has helped me so much with this one, systems. Just creating systems for about anything that you could have a system for, so that we don't have to do it over and over and over again. And it's written out and it's easy. And Bill, I'd say another thing would have to be Samantha, our assistant, who is a system specialist patient. She lives and breathes building systems and just loves doing it. So I think surrounding yourself by great people like her and the other people that we have on our team who are great at what they do, and really fill in our gaps, and take care of our weaknesses. They do that. So I would say those are some other reasons that we've had success.
Patients, we know, as Robert just said, we know what we're really, really good at. We also know, because of that, what we're really, really not good at. And there is no entrepreneur in your audience who's good at everything. And so I think it's one of the first things we do with clients is we help them figure that out. What are they really, really good at? And what are they not good at? And what do they don't like to do? And then build a team around them that fills in all those gaps. Robert's correct. We've got Sam and Julia and Travis and McSwain and Maria and Jackie. We've got like 16 people that are helping us on this project, but that's because we know how we contribute best to the company, and then we need to find people who contribute in those areas where we're not very good. And there's one last thing, and then I think we'll be finished with this answer. Patience. It would be silly for us to be coaches and not be coached. We have some of the most amazing coaches guiding us. They're very expensive, and
You
they're
mean
very,
you
very
have a coach?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Don't tell
absolutely.
me if
Several.
do you ever attend seminars?
Of course we do.
Oh yes.
I
Ah,
just, I just came back from the Genius Network event. Robert just came back from the Podcaster Paradise conference,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of plans in 2016. So we have what, three, four. I would say John Lee Dumas coached us in the beginning, but I wouldn't call him a regular coach. But we have three other regular coaches: um, Dan Miller, James O'Shea, and Jeff Brown. And I want to tell your audience that that is one of the first things right after they figure out what they would like to do, what they're good at, so they kind of have a concept of what kind of business they want to build. They need to go get a coach immediately.
wow. Okay, we want to be letting you go because the new year is coming and we'll be catching you up to hear how you are getting on with your new coach because the online success we are coming up with the stories flash for our guests. So we'll be catching up on you and check how you are doing with your coaches.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. I know here that Robert and Bill, we know that everyone online wants to hear their to have their needs met and problems solved. My clan is a hungry of entrepreneurs wanting the same things, looking to move their businesses forward. What is your focus or specialty online?
Oh, you mean,
What do you specialize in?
well, we specialize in helping business owners and business leaders build highly successful, incredibly successful companies without screwing up their lives. And because we coach men only, because they're 30 to 49 years old, and most of them in their mind, like I used to, think they're Supermans, they are drawn to the business battlefield, as Robert and I call it. It's the excitement of business, and because of that, they oftentimes neglect the home life, the home fires. They talk a lot about it. They say how important their family, their kids, their relationships, their health, and all that is to them. But if you look at their calendar or their checkbook or their bank account, you can see that they're actually not investing in those other aspects. So building a successful company is something that Robert and I are really, really good at, and we get to work with some amazing rock star business owners and business leaders. But what Robert and I bring also to the table is that other super important part of life. Nobody wants to be a successful business leader and get all the awards and accolades and go home to a catastrophe.
Why men only? Why are you being sexist? Why can't you coach women? Yes,
Robert, we're not sexist.
you
How about
are.
can I address that real quick with you?
Absolutely.
Now you might think that's sexist, but actually
It's not.
we made a decision. We've both coached many, many women in our lives, but with this business, we do it holistically, patients. So we don't just help people with their business, we help them with their lives. And part of that means that you have to dig very deep into certain parts of their lives, in order to help them out. And although, Bill and I are married to beautiful ladies, we both have daughters. I have a granddaughter. We absolutely love women. We just did not feel like it was exactly, I guess you could say, safe or prudent on our part to go that deep with the person other than with our spouses. And so we made a decision just to go that deep with, our spouses and with men because of the safety of it. So, yeah, we love women. I promise you we're not sexist. I promise you we're not. But we just made that decision. And we do have plans, patients, down the road. And it's probably going to be about 4 years or so from now to hire what we call some rusty lionesses who will be coaching for us. So women who can coach women, but they will not be coaching men because of the nature of how we coach.
Wow.
Well, Patience, let me ask you one more thing. So just imagine, what you said you were an athlete. What kind of athlete were you?
I was a cross country.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you were a cross country runner,
Yes.
and you had the chance to be, at a world class or national class level.
Mhm.
Would you want to be coached by someone who studied cross country, who just read books about it, or would you want to be coached by somebody who was a Olympic gold medalist cross country runner? Or
Of course, I would want to have that gold medals because I want to be there as well. Not the one who's reading the books from the woods.
yeah. So
Yes.
patience. So patience. Robert and I'm going to state the obvious, and you're going to laugh, but we are not women.
No.
We've studied women, we're married to women, we have daughters, we've worked with women, we've hired women. But when it comes to coaching, meaning coming alongside someone and helping them become the best that they can be, and because we're focused not only in business but also in life, we cannot say that we, just like you want a real cross country runner to coach you, we think that a woman wants a real woman, a woman who has lived life as a professional woman, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, and as a wife, and we are not those people. And so we cannot look someone in the eye, a woman in the eye, and say we can be world-class coaches. We can look a man in the eye and say we can be a world-class coach for you. And no, absolutely, there isn't anything he's going to throw our way that we haven't either understood ourselves, observed, or experienced.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to really say this on this podcast, and I think goes to all men around the world. You are just really scared of women, and that's all.
Well, that
Well,
could
yeah.
be.
No, that's all. That's all.
Patience. The only reason that is because we know that you guys are smarter than we are, and
Yes,
that's the
thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, we saw
I,
passion.
I, I'm all over that. You're 100% right.
Okay. Well, anyway, why is your students calling both of you the Extraordinary Lives Guides?
Huh.
Because that's what we want our students to have. We go after patients 10 different parts of life, and not just career, but 10 other areas of life too. And we see it like as if you could almost picture like a pie with 10 slices of pie in it cut. Well, it's very important to make sure that each one of those is working correctly. And so what we do is we do 90-day goal setting or goal accomplishments with our coaching clients. And we take certain ones of those each 90 days and go after them so that they get better and better and better in different areas of their life. And that, in tune, brings about an extraordinary life.
Wow. Okay. Now, yeah, that's why you are called extraordinary people. Okay. And where do we find this program of yours so we can join?
Well, we can, well, two things, patients. One, Rusty Lion Academy, all one word, .com is our home. And right on the homepage, right there at the top, you'll be able to sign up for the Lion's Den and get immediate access to about 15 hours of great training videos and a lot of exclusive member content. What we could also do, if you like, patients, is we have 3 tools that we teach to every one of our clients that they themselves have voted as the most impactful in their life and in their business. One is called your 25-year desired future. To get to where you want to go in life, you have to define it. And we use a little exercise. It's like a little time machine exercise. And we actually lead you out into 25 years into the future, and you're defining your life as a story in the present tense. I am and I have. We've actually had some of the most powerful leaders we know hear their story that we read to them that they crafted, and tears came to their eyes because it was so meaningful that this is where they were going to get to someday. Then we back into a 3-year roadmap, and then we back into what Robert has developed, which is some of our magic sauce, 90-day, what we call lion's prey goals. If you've ever seen a lion hunt antelope on the savannah, that's how we want you to go after your 90-day goals. There's 100 90-day growth cycles in a 25-year desired future. And so each time that our clients are accomplishing their goals, they're moving ever closer to that wonderful future. We can put a private page together. We can give these tools away for free to your clan. They can go self-help themselves. Mm-hmm. And here's the end of the year, the start of the new year. They can start off 2016 the most powerful way that they ever have by taking a little time over the holidays to knock out these exercises, and they will never regret spending that time for themselves.
Wow. Okay. Clan, Bill and Robert is going to hang out and share more information about their journey with us. If you can relate to where Bill and Robert started their journeys so far, if you just want to learn more about Bill and Robert, you can listen to the extended version of their journey on onlinesuccessjourney.com, or if you are just listening at onlinejourneysuccess.com, click on part 2 of Robert and Bill journey, and you'll even get more tips and help from your own online journey success and to all our journey podcasts. Okay, that's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Bill and Robert join us in part 2 on onlinesuccessjourney.com.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path, so make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the online success journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.